Hey, thanks for joining us on Cha with Laura and Leah. Cha is a podcast and video series of us just having tea with our friends. Cha, as you probably know, means tea in many languages, including our language of Korean. We are two diasporic Koreans that are inspired by that quote that I think many of us have heard by Nina Simone, which paraphrased is that the role of the artist is to reflect the times. And so we are inviting our friends over for tea to talk about our values, our art, our creativity, our dreams for the world that we are all envisioning and imagining and co-creating. And, Cha is our offering to the collective to invite you in and to hopefully serve as inspiration for you to then go on and hold your own in-person conversations. Virtual is beautiful. We are here right now virtually, and this is a gift. And also, there is a particular magic that is generated when we are literally sharing space and air and tea together. So, brew a pot for yourself, join in, and we're so grateful to be connected to you.
Hello to the beautiful community of Cha with Laura and Leah. I am your co-host, Laura Chung. And with all full transparency, Leah and I have contributed our own funds to season 1 and season 2. We've paid for the production and all of the editors ourselves. And now we are moving into the next phase of filming season 3, and we are starting to fundraise for that. In lieu of sponsorships where we would have to read out ads during our podcast and video series, we wanted to reach out to our community first to support us so that you are part of the co-creation process. We are raising $1,000 to cover the cost of the studio in Los Angeles and all of our editors who help us make this possible. Thank you so much for your support, and we appreciate everything. Everything is linked down below for you to learn more. Bye.
Welcome, Bianca.
Yeah, welcome, Bianca. It's so nice. This is so such a treat to have you. I know.
IRL.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, thanks for making time while you're here on your book tour as well.
Congrats on the book.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We have multiple copies here.
I know you love her. Who needs PR?
Oh my gosh! What?
I know.
I'm
such a nerd. My sister's like, Laura, just.
I think I've written in mine.
The whole thing.
No, it's so good.
Well, because
I'm the same way with books.
You say so many things that encapsulate our experience as Asian in the Asian of the diaspora in the U.S. That I wanted to highlight them because. They're words that I didn't have at the time of my upbringing in my suburb, and you just put to life. So that's why I wanted to highlight everything.
Oh, well, that is like the love letter to a writer is when your book is all annotated.
I know, right?
So,
it's such a compliment.
Yeah, I receive it.
Wait, I'm being quoted. But actually, one of the first questions that we wanted to ask you is, what is unassimilable?
It's a mouthful.
I'm having a hard time saying
No, you're not.
Unassimilable. Unassimilable.
Unassimilable. It's the opposite of assimilation.
Yes. It is a mouthful. I feel like the experience of saying unassimilable is kind of reflective of the concept.
Yeah. Unassimilable.
But yeah, I came up with. So it reflects the main argument of the book.
Sorry.
No, I love it. She's into it.
Ridiculous.
She's supporting me.
It's the main argument of the book is why would we want to belong here, right?
Yeah.
And so I came up with the concept of the book. I started writing it in 2021. The world looked very different at that time, right? So we were coming off the heels of this national reckoning around Black Lives Matter. I think a lot of Black abolitionists and activists really pushed our kind of national consciousness, right? And also we were seeing this spike in anti-Asian hate crimes. And I was just noticing, I was part of very, very, very early efforts to collect data on that, which since has been critiqued of working with cops, right? But I was just, trying to really like keep my ear on the ground. I was also, organizing with Asian American communities and teaching Asian American studies and just paying close attention to what the discourse was in response to Stop Asian Hate, and noticing, not everyone, but noticing this kind of narrative come forth of like, we don't deserve to be hate crimed because we are good immigrants, we're American too, we belong here. And the whole time I'm like, what if I don't want to belong here? We just like, it's just becoming more and more revealed. The veil is coming off more and more of how this country is based on genocide and anti-Blackness and all of these hypocrisies. Instead of laboring to prove ourselves to this country, this is a moment where we should actually be indicting the country and revealing, right, and really holding it accountable for all its contradictions and hypocrisies and the ways that, the state, capital S state, is the origin of anti-Asian hate, domestically and abroad. Which are both connected. And so I was like thinking about that and what this, politic of refusal could look like for Asians in the US. And then at the same time, my grandma passed away actually, like a few weeks after the Atlanta spa shooting.
Oh, wow.
And I opened the book with my grandma because at the time I was like trying to make sense of everything going on in the world. And I was thinking about my popo, my maternal grandma's legacy. How she was, when she was alive, a very, quote, difficult woman who, we all have and aspire to and love those figures in our families. But in reality, like, it was hard sometimes because she refused to cooperate. She was always just adamantly gonna do her own thing, and she refused to assimilate, which is so beautiful. I opened the book with different stories about her, how she came to the U.S. in her 70s after my grandpa had essentially cheated on her and started a new family. And so she had to start over at very old age, but she was able to because we lived in the Asian ethnoburb and my parents are still there, the first suburb that has like this very visible Asian presence. And I talk about how she never learned English, but she had this like later in life renaissance where she had a community, she had neighbors, Cantonese neighbors, where she continued to like have this very vibrant social life because of the ethnoburb, where they're thriving not because of assimilating, but because they refuse to assimilate and unapologetically cater to the immigrants in that community. And so all of that together, I was like, what if this concept of being unassimilable is a way to frame a politic of refusal for all of us in the Asian diaspora in the US as a way forward to respond to this political historical moment, instead of trying to, right, be included and represented in this empire. It is a way to refuse and position ourselves in opposition to it.
Because first you talk about how being Asian American was kind of a resistance movement for Asians at that time. And even when we were doing our description of cha and I wrote Korean American, you were like, no, we're not American. We're diasporic women. And a part of me kind of resisted that at first because I was like, no, but we have a right to be here too. We are also of the States. But then I realized, no, we feel so worthy that we don't need to be accepted by the status quo. And I think that's how you kind of frame it, right?
Yeah, I talk about how, the origins of the term Asian American, obviously, a lot of folks and scholars have done a lot of work on this, but it came out of an anti-imperialist and very kind of like anti-state position. But I think we also, and I talk about this in the book, I'm not going to go too much into it, right? But a lot of it was tied to the Black Power movement, the anti-war movement. But I think in the year of 2025, it's fair to say that while those radical origins are definitely still there, a lot of what Asian American means has frankly been co-opted by the state and by neoliberalism to mean inclusion and representation, which we know are limited. And even Asian American studies, which was born out of the radical Asian American movement, has been co-opted to be like, Asian Americans can be billionaires too. And that is so contrary, right, to what we want to do. And so, the Asian diaspora, which I propose at the end of the book, is a rejection of Americanness and a proposition that, again, what if we built belonging and this radical politic grounded in our diasporic experiences of not really belonging anywhere, but creating that belonging in that kind of liminal diasporic space.
Like a third thing.
Yeah.
Third space.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think also because I spent most of my life, like probably until a few years ago, just wishing I'd been born white. Because it's so hard to not be white in this like white supremacist world, but especially country. And the whole thing with like, where are you from? No, where are you really from? That whole thing, and be like, I'm American. And just hearing that now with everything that I understand, like the perspective that I have, I'm like, whoa, I don't want to be. Like, I mean, like, I don't want to, and it's a tricky thing with everything happening with deportations right now, where it's not to say like, oh, there's no value to being American, to belonging here. But it should be on the individual to decide how they're going to identify where they feel their home is, and to consider the context of like, why are so many Asian Americans, diasporic, that's another word I can't pronounce, diasporic? Asians here in the first place. You know, and like, can we talk about that beyond K-pop? And K-drama, because that's also like the way Asian American studies or like culture being accepted has been manipulated to like the skincare and to all this stuff that's so palatable. And it leaves out like so much of the history, whether it's you're talking about like the radical Asian American kind of birth of Asian Americanism. Was that in the 60s, 70s? Or even just like our family's unique experiences as to how we got here. There's just so much. And so, for me, the rejection is more like, I want to talk about all that stuff, you know? And a lot of it, like, I'm learning. Because I am American. Like, I was born and raised here. I was, you know, told implicitly and explicitly to assimilate. You could see that, like, oh, wait, they consider us the model minority? That's a good thing. Like, let's not lose that status. So there's just so much. There's so much trauma in it.
And it's interesting because I think in the refusing of the Americanness of, like, I don't want to be from here, someone asked me one time in one of my book events, like, so are you you're refusing to kind of take responsibility for America? And I was thinking, like, no, it's actually that I take so much responsibility for how our peoples have been displaced, and that is the nature of diaspora. We're in diaspora often because of coloniality and ongoing dynamics of racial capitalism, and then forced to be settlers here and forced to pay taxes that fund genocide. It's actually that I feel so sick by that reality that it positions me to refuse it and to refuse any kind of effort to belong to it. And it's not just like, it's not an isolationist argument, it's not an absolving responsibility, but it is really taking up responsibility and trying to do something with that, I don't want to say guilt, but like that tension that we have to confront here in the imperial core, right?
And you really speak about that, obviously, in your ethnoburb, but also in the education system. What do you call it? PWIWAA?
Predominantly white institutions with a lot of Asians.
So I first learned PWI from you and Kala. Kala, who's also mentioned in your book. But you talk about how your parents wanted you to go to a predominantly white institution, which I feel like is a norm, right? For all Asian Americans.
Well, and basically, what percentage of schools are not PWI? Right? It's very tiny.
True. But usually, I mean, okay, I'll just speak from my experience as a Korean, that my parents moved us up to the suburbs from New York City to be in a predominantly white neighborhood in a good school system.
Because that would be good. That's better. Right.
But I also would argue that that's traumatic for us, because then we have to internalize and assimilate and lose our identity. And you kind of speak about that was your first experience with all the internal struggles.
Because I grew up in this ethnoburb where like street signs are in Chinese and Vietnamese and then English, right? And I mean, that was fought for, but I grew up, in an Asian ethnoburb, and then I went to school in Pasadena, where it was interesting because I think for a private school, there were a good amount of Asian Americans, and I think it's also very kind of California dynamic too, where you're in these institutions where there are a lot of Asians, and there's a visible, numerical representation. But when you think about power and institutional power, these are predominantly white institutions.
Yes.
And so I kind of explore like the contradictions of that and how I think it's a very clear example. You know, people talk about wedge politics and how Asian Americans are used as a wedge against Black and Latinx and other folks of color. But I really go into like this psychic experience of that, the psychological experience of that, and how even for myself, right, like all the class dynamics that happen there when you're just kind of stereotyped as being like the model minority, like you said. I'm trying to think of an example from the book. I think like how it's most live recently is being in a PhD program in an era of the end of affirmative action and feeling like I do see, you know, students around me who I guess look like me. But I'm in an institution that is socializing me to become this like white normative defined by whiteness example of like a scientist that is like completely removed and non-biased and, you know, being socialized into like just these white norms of like how to be a scholar that feel so detached from my body and in a way traumatizing and like dismembering of my experiences
and gaslighting too, right? Because there's this like, oh, there are other people that look like me. We are represented. But to your point, it's a question of power. Like who has power ultimately? Like who's actually owning and running these institutions? And it's not us. Yeah. But like you see people, like you see the representations. So there's this like deep disconnect with like, oh, things are better. You know, maybe we are moving towards more racial equality, but your body knows that's not true.
Yeah, there's this one, I wrote this book, like, it's funny to be promoting it, like, so long after, because I'm like, what? I'm honestly
what the hell
did I write about? But as you're talking, I do remember this one story I want to share from the book, where, I'm like first year, second year in my PhD program, and I'm working with a team, and they are doing a study surveying the entire country on what people believe to be the origins of, like, mental illness. And it's a survey, there's explanations like, oh, people believe this is like generational trauma, people believe that mental illness comes from like a chemical imbalance in your brain, or some people believe that it is like there's like spiritual reasons, it's demon possession. And I was just thinking like, oh, I know from my lived experience and my experiences with Asian American communities, so many of our folks do turn to spiritual explanations for mental illness. They do say like, oh, a demon has taken, or a ghost has taken over your body, or right, they just have these spiritual frameworks for it, and a lot of people have done and written work on this. And I proposed a paper off of this study that it would be really interesting to survey different Asian ethnic groups and to see how these spiritual frameworks play out across the diverse Asian diaspora. So I was pushing for disaggregating data, right? And I was told that Asian Americans as a whole are not statistically significant enough to actually even be included in any kind of comparison. And
how dare they?
So we would be other, right, in the study.
Right, and, always other.
And those numbers are so small that we, what I was pushing was not only for visibility of Asian Americans, but like of Burmese and Korean and Chinese, right? Like the ethnic disaggregation, that was just not going to be possible in the scope of the study. And I'm like, but we're conducting the study.
Right.
Who's they?
Right.
Who are they?
Yeah.
And so that was just an example. I felt like, wow, like so much of my life I've been told if I can just kind of get a seat at the table, right? Like be in these institutions, I can do the research to uplift my community. But here I am and being told like, oh, you can do this kind of study once you publish these articles and establish your reputation and then you can do things on your own terms.
Like
and
10 years from now.
Yeah. And I'm like, fuck that. Yeah. You're going to steal my soul by the time I get there, you know?
That's the plan though, right?
Yeah. And so, you know, that's just like one example of how I felt like, wow, what the hell am I doing here?
But you seem to be in these institutions. So like you're doing your PhD now, right? Yeah. And you express in the book how you're like, this is going to take forever, whatever. And then you had this, you need to spill the tea on your church experience, because I read the chapter of revolutionary spirituality, and you grew up in, did you grow up in the Korean church too?
Yeah, Korean Catholic. Korean Catholic.
Korean Presbyterian.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, I was like, can I just read this one paragraph?
Sure.
So you wrote, I came to believe that the only way forward was to try to change the organization from within, to continue to put myself in harm's way and to overexpose myself to toxic leaders. I swallowed the lie that I had to stay in this abusive relationship with my employer and to be a martyr for the cause. So basically, can you tell us about what happened and because I don't want to I don't want to put in your words.
Yeah, no, it is tea because this is a national organization that I worked with. We're representing all like subsets of Christianity and immigrant community.
Yeah, we really are.
I was at a Chinese Baptist church, and then I joined the evangelical national organization. I found my home there in college. It was like the chapter I was part of was very justice oriented. It was able to bridge my faith with all these things I cared about. It was a space where there were a lot of Asian Americans and role models that I had. And so I joined them for a long time, eight years. I was part of this organization as a student and then as a staff. And then in my last year, they decided to draw a line in the sand, basically, and they put out this policy that everyone who is part of this organization has to ascribe to, believe, and teach a very like traditional heterosexist, homophobic view on gender and sexuality and marriage. And I'm like, we were like working with college students at the time. I'm like, we don't need to be talking about all this. But for me, I was like, I was working for them at an all women's college where I went. It was a very queer space, and we had always had queer and trans students in our organization, in our chapter, participating, leading Bible study, right? Like, it was just like, how can we not in this context? And so when they did that, it forced me to not just think about what did I believe and how it does not align with them anymore, but I felt it also in an embodied way, knowing that I myself I'm not straight, and I felt like this isn't just like a debate, a theological debate as they are framing it. It is my embodied lived reality too, of how many of us fall outside of these very restrictive norms that don't make sense and honestly are very like archaic and I feel like specific to this particular time in this particular timeline in the universe. Like, it doesn't make sense, right? And so I try to, with many other queer students and staff and alumni, like fight the organization. We had petitions. We, talked to our leaders. We organized with each other. We did like letter drives. Alumni who continued to give money were like, we don't agree with this. We'll pull money if we do that. Like, we were trying all these strategies, and it was very clear that they were committed to the position that they held because of a very large donor who wanted this to happen. And so I think from that experience, it was like, it really formed how I relate to organizations and institutions. I will never make my home in these spaces because they don't care about us, right? My allegiance is to the students in my community I organized with. And just realizing it's so manipulative. And when you add religion to it too, it's even more manipulative because they can use all this spiritual language to abuse you. Yeah. And I was,
but you at one point you wanted to change it from within. And I think a lot of people find themselves in these situations where they're at their gross institutional job or their organization isn't spoken out about Palestine, but they think that they could be the infiltrator within. But I think you tried and you got alienated from all of the leaders of the organization, and so you had to leave. But then not only did you leave, but you spoke to Time magazine, and I Googled it. It's like, oh my god, that's pretty big.
I mean, they wouldn't move, so we had to escalate. Right? I'm like, okay, well, if you don't want me to talk about this, you shouldn't have done it. Me and a colleague, mentor of mine, spoke to Time and were essentially like the whistleblowers. And even then, they still have the same position now, like 5 years later. It didn't move them. They don't care. I think what it was for me was realizing like, okay, change the organization from within, but at what cost? Because it was destroying me physically, emotionally. I was so unwell for so many years. And even now it's a wound, but I'm like, I've turned the page, I feel like. But that and realizing like I'm more useful when I'm well. And it's not just about you being useful, but like my sanity is like worth more than fighting with these like idiots.
Well, because like you said earlier, the goal is to destroy your soul, to take your soul, because then you can't create, you can't fight the systems. You could just be a zombie robot like everybody else, and you won't be assimilable. But what does your spiritual practice look like now? Like, do you feel like you have any like connection to, whatever your faith is?
Yeah, I think I'm. That's still a question mark. I'm not part of any kind of like organizational whatever, right? Religious gathering, but I think a lot of it has been reconnecting with ancestors. Yeah. Which even that was something that was kind of like taboo under very intense evangelical spaces. I know you're an astrologer.
Yeah.
I think a big part of it has been just being a student of different ways of knowing about the world, and part of it has also been astrology. I don't know, trying to ground myself in things like having an altar at home. Yeah. I don't want to share too much about this, but I in the past year or so, after I had my kid, I felt like I needed healing beyond like talk therapy. Like I needed healing in a spiritual way, but I didn't have like a spiritual container anymore. And so I got an Akashic record reading. And that was really profound for me. Just like, again, like different ways of making sense of our current reality. So I don't have any like rituals or practices right now, but I feel like you
still feel connected, and you're creating your own now outside of any external container, which I think is so much more powerful. Yeah. Because I think like what the thing with religion in churches is they place themselves as the middleman between you and the divine, right? Like you have to follow their rules, agree with them, whatever, everything that you talked about, or else you're not only cut out of that specific organization, but like I know when growing up in the Catholic Church, it was like God's gonna be mad at you. Yeah. So here's that layer.
Aren't like that. That's
really? Is it Catholic?
Because the churches that I went to were progressive. They were, the hip young pastor. They used to play amazing music. It was just they didn't have that praxis of politics. And they had songs that you just would like elevate you, and they would dim all the lights. It was an experience, and I think what going to church gave me at least was community. And when that is gone, it's kind of like you're left with a hole. And then I think because I had a very similar timeline. I was very involved in the church for a really long time. Like I was raised in the church, and then I continued to go to church until just like 5 years ago even. Oh, wow. Until I found out my church was involved in a scandal. That's a tea for another day.
I mean, which church isn't involved in this? Right. Wait, really? You're part of Hillsong?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I don't know what that is.
Wow. Yeah.
They're like the Mecca.
They're like the... And I went to one where Justin Bieber used to go to in Montclair. He used to go to the one in LA, but when he was in New York, he would go to that one.
Wow, you're part of Hillsong.
I was, wow. And I went to the OG Hillsong in Australia, where it was like born. I was into it for a long time. Before that, I went to Redeemer in with Tim Keller in the
Wow.
Upper West Side. So I was like,
You're deep in it.
I was deep in it.
Yeah.
I was trying to find my space.
Yeah.
And what I realized was, like, during 2020-ish, I like had to remove myself from multiple spaces like the church and Kundalini yoga, like all these places that gave me that spiritual experience that I was seeking, but they didn't have that political thing that I was looking for, because it was all ignited by BLM, honestly. And then you go into, you know, your racial awakening and your radical awakening, and you're like, oh, but I need that spirituality, because if you don't have that, then it's like, what are we fighting for? You know?
Yeah.
So it's like, I find that there's a couple of us who are very outspoken, who have these different, you know, if we have a Venn diagram, we're spiritual in our own way, but we're also activists, but we're also, you know, in our own pockets of how we decide to show up. And I think, I don't even know if there was a question there, but I just noticed that we had very similar timelines of.
Yeah. I'm just still getting over the fact that you're part of
I'm gonna need to look this up. I don't know.
There's a whole documentary on it.
Ooh, documentary.
I'm telling
It's
you,
very
I find
disturbing.
myself in cults, and I'm like, what am I doing here?
Yeah, it is. It does feel very cultish. Yeah, wow.
Because the music, Oceans.
Oh my god. Oh yeah, I read about
You
Oceans.
know about Oceans, and I'm just like, the
That came from that
music is
church.
so compelling, and you're just like, you feel connected in a way that it's like hard to explain until you're out of it, right?
Yeah.
That's what a cult is.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, there's this like, there's this term in the book from an old school sociologist, collective effervescence.
Yes.
It's similar to like why people go to Eras Tour, you know?
Yes.
Like participating in this thing together is like a drug. But yeah, I mean, oftentimes it also makes you vulnerable, I think, to being really exploited. Yeah.
It does, for sure.
Yeah.
Where to go from here?
Where do you go after cults?
Yeah. No, I will say though, like you said, you have a community, and I do think sometimes like I miss that community, especially like when it was an intergenerational community. And I will say, like, sometimes it feels so hard because now
This dog. Kinley, go.
I do find myself sometimes in these spaces because I'm married into a family that is very involved still in these spaces, and the ethnic church in particular. And I'm like, the way that they take care of each other, though, is so beautiful. Like, if you have a baby, like, there will be people from the church delivering meals to you for the whole month, you know? Like, and especially in the immigrant church, like, they pay each other's bills from the hospital. They really, like, provide for each other in a very socialist way.
I wonder how much of that is cultural, though, versus, you know, dictated by church anything, you know?
Yeah. But it is interesting, though, that the church is, like, the safety net that facilitates
But that is also, like, if you're an immigrant, when you try to find your people, when you try to find your safe places, like, it makes sense that you'd go to a church to, you know?
That's how my mom, she went to a Korean church in Jackson Heights and Queens when they first moved to New York, and she found health insurance from somebody in their church. Like, they pointed her in the right direction. So it is, I think, the entry point for a lot of immigrants.
Those are also all the community members, though, as opposed to church leaders, right? Like, everyone you're talking about
It is
is
a socialist model.
It is. And it just made me think recently, like, you know, I for a while I was like, throw it all away. But now I'm like, okay, maybe don't throw it. Like, maybe we can compost it, you know? Because I think also, you know, I've been in spaces where politically we're very aligned, but people can't even give each other a ride home. Like, they can't be bothered to, like, do the messiness of community, the inconvenience of community. And so lately I've just been, like, allowing the lines to blur a little bit, that nothing is all good or all bad.
We talk about that a lot. Like, how can you be in community with people that you don't agree with?
I also ask that
I know.
every day.
I think about the protests in Korea in December after the attempted military what was it? Coup with martial law, and how they were so ready to go with supporting each other with like coffees. Like people went in and they were like, and I, by the way, learned this all through Instagram. Like I didn't know what the protest culture was in Korea at all. But things like that, where people are thinking, okay, how do we look out for those that are going to need sustenance, that are going to need warmth? And to your point about like people wanting to give each other rides home here, there's so much to, I think, blend in like looking at different cultures and different, even if it is what you learned in your church community, and taking out the stuff that is good. I actually, like, I have a really deep faith, and the God that I feel is the God of my childhood, which is the God that I was taught about in the Catholic Church. Like, so that the feeling of the God is still the same, but I also interchangeably will be like, the universe or energy or whatever. So it doesn't feel so confined, but the feeling is like that relationship for me started as a child. And I think that's actually what freed me from blindly following the church, was what I felt with God, like didn't match what I was told by my, by the adults in my life, by teachers, because I went to Catholic schools, and like church leaders, where they used it as like a punishing, controlling force. I was like, wait, but that's not what God feels like to me. But all to say, like, that came from my, growing up in the church. So, like, it's not all bad. But I think we just have to have, like, that discernment and the agency to explore. And that's what a lot of these, like, structures don't want you to do, be it an academic institution or a religious one. Right? They just want you to, like, follow.
Catholicism is like, do they believe in Jesus, but they love Mary.
I think the only difference is they give so much credence to Mary. And also we're talking the day after the Pope died.
Pope died.
So maybe that's why religion's like quite top of mind. But I think the main difference is Mary being divine. Right?
The mother. Because in the Christian church, Mary is like not even existent. Like they talk about her, but it's more about Jesus.
Which is ironic though, because it's Christian pastors are allowed to be female, but Catholic priests are not allowed to be female.
They're not allowed to be married either.
Right, so it's like weird though, but we supposedly revere Mary. But like not actual alive women. Do you know what I mean? So there's like a weird hypocrisy there. And then I think another thing is the sacraments within Catholicism are very specific, like going through your confirmation and then doing confession. You don't do confession, right? It's the whole, like, you must confess your sins, like, literally in, like, a box. So that's, like, very, like, I don't know, just, like, it's to control your behavior, because if I eat this cookie and I'm not supposed to, I'm going to have to tell somebody about it, like, it's, like, verbally.
Instead of directly connecting with God.
Well, you also do that, right? But, like, you're told, also, like, how to do that. Like, you get the penance of, like, 10 and we have Hail Mary, which you don't have the prayer, right? So it's, I don't know, there's things that are, I think, I don't know enough about all the different Christian branches, but I think Catholicism refuses to evolve in any way. Like, it's very traditional, and that's my experience. I don't know about other churches. Whereas there seems to be more variation within Christianity.
But they all hate LGBTQ people.
I guess.
I think collectively they're all like, no. Of that one issue.
Unless they're like an explicitly affirming denomination.
I mean,
It is interesting, though. I think it's an interesting site where so many of our communities have found home. And yet so many people feel the misalignment you're saying, where you're like, oh, the God that I'm reading about is not what is being practiced here, and it is a site of so much violence and harm, obviously, like on an individual level, but also structurally. And so I don't know, I'm always like, I don't want to deal with it, but also I feel like, because of my own experiences, feel attracted to like really confronting the contradictions of these spaces.
And as a mother now, like, do you think about I mean, your son is still so little, but mine is 10, and he asked me a lot about religion.
Really?
We actually baptized him because both my husband and I grew up Catholic, but we don't practice. He was born our son was born in London, and there's a Catholic school system there.
Oh, okay.
But you have to be like baptized, you have to be practicing all this stuff, and we thought we were going to be there, so we were like, we'll baptize him as an option in case we want to put him in Catholic schools, which are supposed to be like the better schools. So my son's asking like, why was I baptized? What does that mean? We're not religious, right? Like, why not? But you talk about God all the time, you know? So I wonder, do you think about it yet as a mother? Or have you talked about it with your partner?
I feel like we're still in survival mode.
Yeah, true.
Toddler survival mode.
Yeah.
But no, we do think about it and talk about it. I mean, one thing I think that's more live right now is like because our extended family helps a lot and is deeply in these communities. And so he gets brought along to church too, right? Which we love, but then we're also like, as he gets old enough to hear the teachings, he's going to realize what we teach him at home might be in opposition.
Yes.
So then it's like, we're going to have to eventually confront this tension of not only being in community, but being in family. I'm like, I'm not ready for that.
I know.
I would argue that learning about Jesus helped me to be more radical.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because if you really read his teachings or learn his teachings, it's all about helping the poor and speaking out for marginalized people.
Wait, and this is how I first found Laura on Instagram.
I talked about Jesus.
She's just talking about Jesus, and because I was it was like November 2023, and I was so like blown away. I'm like, wait, but Jesus is Palestinian. Like, what is happening? And Laura had a video about exactly this, and so we always say like Jesus brought us together.
Wow. I literally went to Bible study every Sunday, taught Bible study, went to Catholic college, did an entire semester of Jesus from a historical perspective. So I was
Is that what it's officially
you
called?
cannot argue with me about Jesus. I will tell you about Jesus. And learning about his story, it made me more radical because I was like, what do you mean Jesus died for our sins? No, he was murdered in an occupation. What are you talking about? And actually, that, like, having that background gives me more street cred, I guess, with Christians who are so silent about Palestine, that it's like, no, you're reading the scripture wrong. That's not what he's actually saying.
Well, the thing is, do you think most people, like, you actually read it? Like, I took a course, I think it was just one, Bible as literature in college. But, like, a lot of people don't actually read it. Right? Like, and if you don't read it and you're just listening to like the sermons or the, you know what I mean?
But if you go to like a Bible study,
yeah.
But it's
you
like
actually read and
literally.
You probably did this to your Bible.
I did.
Multicolor highlighters and Post-its.
Oh my gosh.
But you actually took in the information. Like, you went to the source as close as you can get, and you interrogated what you were taking in, as opposed to like accepting what you're told.
Also, being Asian American, right? And we celebrate Asian American Heritage Month, and you're silent on Palestine. It's just like these things just don't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like,
It's like, what?
What are you all about? And that's like such an annoying thing that's come out of this Stop Asian Hate movement, or whatever you want to call it, is like the inability to apply what you are fighting for to Palestinian people.
Yeah.
But how many people don't actually know still that Palestine is in Asia?
Yeah.
Because you're told, oh, it's the Middle East.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that are like, well, I don't care about geography. Like, I don't, you know, and they don't like connect that.
Yeah. It's like the geographic connection. It's like the, Orientalism connection. But I think also, again, like the way that our movements have been co-opted, like Stop Asian Hate became about hate crime legislation and increasing police power.
Right.
Where again, like the movement for Palestinian liberation is about understanding that the very state that we are trying to be included and protected from is a perpetrator of genocide and will never be protected by them because all they know is violence.
Yeah.
And even hate crime legislation depends on these foundationally anti-Black kind of tropes and mythologies to protect us when we know that cops don't protect us or prevent crime.
I know.
So I feel like it's just like the co-opting of language. I mean, we see this even with the freaking like astronaut, the girls and right, like the co-opting of feminism, the co-opting of the radical nature of Asian American movements, the co-opting even of like the very real violence that Asian Americans did experience in the pandemic, to just further and bolster the police state, I think is also part of why Asian Americans aren't talking about Palestine, because the whole framework was about, again, like increasing state power, when Palestine is about helping us realize the state is corrupt and we need to take our power back from it and be in solidarity, right?
Yeah. That's actually how I met you, or online met you, because you posted this viral post about how we're not freeing Palestine, Palestine's freeing us. And when I followed you from that post, I really didn't understand what you meant at the time, but I was like, oh, this seems like nice. And it only like months after, when I had really understood what was happening, like observing the collective, that I got what you were saying. But how did you already figure that out?
No, I mean, I didn't. The veil is still, it's like off, but then I still have other veils on. You know, like I'm still trying to see clearly. I feel like we've been so heavily propagandized in so many ways. But I actually, I first heard that through a friend of mine. She studies in North Africa, and she posted this video of a pro-Palestine protest in Algeria, where Frantz Fanon is from, and they have a very rich like anti-colonial revolutionary struggle in history, and people in the streets of Algeria were chanting, "We're not freeing Palestine, Palestine is freeing us." And I felt so moved by those words, and in that particular context. And I felt like for us in the global north, that is even, or global, in the global north and in the imperial core, that is even more so the case, because we are so disassociated from the impact of what our tax dollars are doing and the legacies of this land that we're in, I think for a lot of us after October 7th, that's when the veil started coming off and we started realizing how entrapped we are.
We're not free.
Not free.
Yeah.
But it's also so like brain scrambling that I feel like there's so many people still that don't get it. And I think a lot of people really don't get it. I don't even think it's an enforced cognitive dissonance. I think so many people just don't see it, and it's very weird to coexist among that.
I think it takes a certain person to be either suspicious or curious. And do a little digging, because it takes a very specific person to be a pro-Palestinian person, because you really have to look for the information intentionally and read a book, because there's so much propaganda, there's so much dehumanization of Palestinian people, that it is an unveiling, because you have to look through so many layers of.
And I think you have to like interrogate your own supremacy, whatever that is, whether it comes in the form of like racial whiteness or just American nationality, right? Even or Asian model minority. Like there's so many things where you have to like look at yourself in the mirror and be like, oh fuck. And it's hard to do that.
And it is part of the liberatory self-work. But I will say, like, I actually, since I posted that, I've kind of, I don't want to say like changed my mind about it, and I think there have been some comments that have led me down this self-reflection as well, right? Like, we're not freeing Palestine, Palestine is freeing us, but at what cost, And it reminds me of, did y'all see the encampments yet?
Not yet. We want to go see it.
So good. But there's this one part where Bisan is like, she felt so encouraged watching all the videos of the students on campuses protesting for divestment. And she was like, there wasn't a video that I watched every single one, and it felt so affirming that finally, like, our suffering was being, at the very least, acknowledged, but also, like, at what cost? The cost has always been way too high. And so I've been kind of wary. Like I used to have that, I think, as a pin post. I put it down, right? Because I'm wary of also like the recentering of ourselves and our own journey, when really like the global South and anti-colonial movements in the global South are the ones leading the entire world to safety and freedom, and trying to kind of deconstruct like the individualism of it that we internalize so much as Americans, that we are meant to follow their lead and disrupt from here as much as we can. And our disruption here is absolutely integral, because this is where it all comes from. But really, like, we're just trying to follow and like minimize the cost and the harm that has been so atrocious.
I think it's so hard to capture what you mean in a post generally, let alone like one statement.
Sure.
I hear what you're saying about like, wait, that could sounds like it's making it about us, like self-centering, but I also look at it as let's look to Palestine to learn, right? Like rather than be in this like savior role, which I think also happens within the movement, that is problematic, right? It's like, well, I know what the right thing is that is going to save, you know, and it's a call to like listen to someone else.
It's like not about they're saving us, but we are in solidarity with each other.
Yeah.
Because trauma has no time. It lives in our bones. So the fact that we are here in the imperial core working to dismantle it from within, it's a call back to what our ancestors went through as a you know, as a consequence of U.S. imperialism, but also other colonizers. And so it's not even about us here, it's also our ancestral veneration, you know? Yeah. Because trauma lives in our bones.
And you were just back in your motherland, right? Mm-hmm. How you were there for a while, it seemed like.
I was there for 2 weeks. I was gone for 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, we were in Taiwan and then Hong Kong.
Yeah. How was it?
It's great to get out of the so-called United States for a while.
Yes.
It was great. We brought our kid to meet my grandma and my extended family, and my cousin got married, and so she was having like a second reception there. We got to attend. It was great to be in a walkable city again.
And the food.
Oh my God. Yeah,
Food's so
all of
good.
it. Jeff got stomach flu at one point, which was so sad. But that didn't stop me. I'm like, you take care of yourself. Yeah, it's interesting because Hong Kong is, until 1997, the British were there.
Right.
And yeah, I've just been unpacking a lot of my own, the ways that I've been propagandized, right, about China from not only the American Empire, but the British Empire, and the unique place that Hong Kongers and Cantonese people play in all of this. And yeah, trying to unlearn as much as I can, but also respect my family members' lived experiences too, you know, like, I mean, not to get too much into it, but like, you know, growing up, I think Hong Kongers feel their own sense of identity, and I grew up with a lot of like anti-China narratives, like a lot, right?
Like both from not only the West, but from Hong Kong, right? Yeah.
Because of the British, and because of a lot of dynamics also with the transfer of power, I guess. And I want to honor those experiences, and at the same time, I'm like in a point where I'm like, well, everything the U.S. has taught me about other countries, I'm learning I should just believe.
The opposite. Yeah. You know? We like think about this with North Korea constantly. We're just like, wait.
Okay, yes.
If this, like, who are the bad guys, really? You know? You're like, wait, should we just fully believe the opposite of what we were told? Yeah, it's just
I think actually it can be a similar experience here, where we're taught that these entities are so evil and have inflicted so much suffering, which, like, to an extent, yes, is true. But, like, let's not forget the U.S. has also done that too, if not more. And when you look at things like actual military bases and power, like, oh, they're not this, like, wild menace ready to take over in the way that the U.S. has made it out to be.
Also, they're taking care of their people.
Yeah.
Everybody has health care. There's like, and I don't know if this is 100% true, but from what I'm seeing,
we're not allowed to go there. We're not allowed to go there.
We wouldn't know.
But like, there's no homeless people. You know, things like the basic day-to-days where I can see with my own eyes. that is not happening here.
Yeah.
So then I'm just like, why? What's different, and what do I actually believe to be true?
Every accusation is an admission.
There we go.
Yeah.
So,
But I lived in Hong Kong for a few years, and then I moved from Hong Kong to London.
Okay.
And that was a trip because there's things that are really similar about like the city layout, even like the way there's those bumps are at the crosswalks. That's it's a British thing.
Yeah.
Because it's in London. I'd be like, oh, this is like in Hong Kong, and then I'm like, oh no, it's because the British brought that to Hong Kong, and
milk tea is a British colonial thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So the boba tea, like the
milk tea,
but like which makes boba. That's what boba drinks are made of. Is the milk tea.
That was like a British thing because they wanted milk in their tea.
Right.
That was invented in Taiwan. Yeah.
But the tea was ours.
Right. Yeah.
The cha. Should we do the rapid fire?
Rapid fire, yeah.
So, do you know your big three?
I do. I'm a Taurus sun.
Because your birthday was just
yesterday.
Yes.
I am a Scorpio rising and a Pisces moon.
Ooh. Okay, Pisces moon.
I want to hear y'all's three later, but
okay. And what is the other one?
What are your red flags?
Oh, like in general?
In general.
You could take that
Like,
however
yeah,
you
in
want.
general,
like,
or
your
like
red flags of other people or your own red
Okay,
flags.
one is someone who refuses to take off their shoes when they're entering my home. Like,
refuses or doesn't?
Who doesn't?
Who won't do it naturally? Do you give them a chance and be like, oh, will you take them off?
Yeah, but most people I think who are invited into my home, if it's not their practice to do that, will catch on.
Like,
to the
do you all
social
not
field.
know Asians don't wear shoes in the house?
Yeah, and at least like see everyone else doing it and then follow. You know, like
see all the shoes at the front.
Yeah, because I feel like it's also very Asian and shaming to like make me have to tell you.
I know, I hate that too. I go like, oh, we take shoes off in our house, like that, or
So it's just like a posture of like observing your surroundings, being self-aware, and like.
Also, it's gross. Like, ew.
It's unhygienic.
Actually, my kids will tell them now, like, oh, we don't wear shoes. When my older one has his friends coming over and like they're just like excited, before they come in, he'll be like, you can't wear your shoes inside.
Good.
Yeah.
We love a shoe monitor.
Yeah. But I think as kids also get like, it's like they're dirty.
Yeah, this is the home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's my red flag.
Okay, it's a good red flag.
One. What is something your followers don't know about you that you think would surprise
I
them?
love this question.
I was just joking about this with my friend yesterday. I feel like, okay, people who meet, they like, we were joking because she was like, yeah, everyone wants to have like a scholarly chat with you. But I'm actually like very unserious. I love to have a scholarly chat, but I also love to talk about housewives.
Oh, yes.
Like, I am a big reality TV consumer.
Oh my God, that's right. When you're posting about The Bachelorette.
I guess I do talk about it all the time. But
Not a lot. You did a little bit. You didn't do as much as I thought you would. Like, I was ready for more, and then
maybe I should do more. But yeah, I think that I'm like I feel the need to actually like disassociate a bit, and the things I disassociate with are like often really trashy. Balanced so that I can engage when it's time to engage.
It is balanced though. Because you can't only you can't only go serious constantly. Like you will, right? I don't know.
I think the older I get, the more I am accepting of that. I want like all of us to be able to like rest and play and celebrate in the ways that we need to.
Yes.
Amen.
Oh, everyone wants to have a scholarly chat because you're getting your PhD.
I'm like, I just want to talk about Love Island.
What do you get a PhD in?
Sociology.
Sociology? Yeah. What do you want to be, a professor or?
That was originally the goal, or like I would just honestly, I just want to be in the classroom and I want to keep writing, and however capacity I can do that in. I'm good.
Does it feel like, because you know the reality of these institutions, does it just feel kind of like it's not just this blanket blind like dream to be in that space.
It's
and
not
then
my dream. Tenure is not my dream.
right. And then like, how does it feel when you think about what your son's education is going to be like? Sorry, I keep bringing this back to parenting,
Oh my gosh.
but you know,
I mean, I hope that by the time my kid is college age, universities don't exist.
they'll be defunct, right? I think so.
Let them collapse.
I think my older one will probably still have that, but I think my younger one, because she's 4, I'm not convinced that like the majority of her age group are going to be going to college.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they cannot exist in the ways that they do now because they're so violent, so much surveillance, so much repression. And I mean, their connections to the war machine.
And they steal land.
Yeah.
Like
That's what I didn't know. They're just land grab institutions.
Yeah.
I only learned that like a year ago.
Like the churches.
Yeah. Yeah.
All these institutional
Yeah.
things are just terrible for our well-being. This will be the last question. I want to come up with a funnier one, but I can't think that quickly in my head. But if there was no such thing as capitalism or colonialism, what would you be doing?
Okay, I know exactly the answer to this. I think I would still be a scholar researcher, but I would be researching fandoms. Like, I'm so interested in the community.
Well, that's sociology.
Yeah, so I guess I would still be doing the same. But I would. So right now, my research is on like immigration justice, all the stuff that
boring.
the most exactly right, like how people build community, blah blah blah. But I would be interested in taking that question into like pop star fandoms.
Yeah,
like BTS, Swifties, Beehive. Yeah.
Right.
Ooh, what about that interests you? Like, what allure does that person
I think
have?
kind of like what we were talking about earlier. Like the shared experience is so captivating for these folks that they like. I mean,
Ooh, that's your Pisces moon.
is it?
Yes, it is.
Like the spiritual experience these people have that determine so many other parts of their lives that people are like going into debt to go to these shows
To be studied.
Yeah, they find so much identity and
I was like, how much is a ticket? Like what? Yeah.
My cousin, literally during the Swiftie tour, she would fly to Austria.
Austria.
Yeah, okay, Austria.
Cross borders.
Literally, she had a world tour. She went to
She did multiple?
Sweden. She did multiple
Wow.
European travel trips to see Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah.
what is it about this chick that you love so much? And it's that thing you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm curious what they get out of it, you
Yeah.
know, and why it's so compelling.
Bracelets?
I mean, I have to say, okay, I'm totally aging myself, but I used to do this with Dave Matthews Band. Like, I used to go to his concerts twice a year since I was like 13. And it is like when you're in a crowd of people who all know the songs and you travel together and you all have the merch, it is like a high.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Well, maybe also because it's like that, oh, we're the same. We're like, you know, we're more alike. The whole we're more alike than we're different. The light in me sees the light in you vibe. It's like that connectedness of like, wow, you were also in your like home memorizing these lyrics like I was, or, you know.
Yeah.
And you're chanting something, it's a ritual.
Yes.
That's what we're doing for collective liberation, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're making it
We're
irresistible.
making it irresistible. Also, Dave Matthews speaks for Palestine.
Oh, does he? He does.
Yes, he does.
He's a outspoken king.
Yeah.
So literally, this is Bianca's book.
Yay.
Go buy it.
Buy it.
And
Learn how to pronounce it better than us.
It's a mouthful, I know.
thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you both for having me. This was so
you.
fun.